So let's get started. I just want to welcome you all to the Blaire House of Milford. I also want to welcome you to our collaborative effort. We have young ladies from Blaire House, and they'll be introduced shortly. We have attorney Mark Cusano, paisano mine, as an attorney from Borchers Law in Medway. We'll talk more. He'll have an opportunity. My name is Tony Chinapi. I'm with the Milford National Bank and Trust Company in the Wealth Management division. We're a trust company, so we deal in a lot of assisted living, special needs situations. Again, Alyssa will be showing up very shortly. As a matter of fact, no, she's not here. Today's topic is Continuum of Care for Senior Citizens, Senior Services. We've got the presenters here. I mentioned Alyssa, she's the community director, so when she comes, she'll introduce Blaire House. She'll also speak on skilled nursing and rehabilitation and assisted living. And then we have Maureen Galino. She'll be speaking on adult day health care. And then we have Terry. She'll be speaking on private home care. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
I'm halfway done. And of course, Mark here, he'll have an opportunity. He'll speak on some of the legal issues. I'll speak on some of the financial issues. Our plan is to open it up, especially with the small group, and hope the ladies in the back can hear us, for a little interaction, a little panel discussion, because I'm sure you have questions. We're going to try to address the general questions. Then you might have a specific question. It might be better if you held on to the question until you hear what they have to say, and then we'll really open it up. That's the benefit, especially with a small group, to be able to do that. I'd like to address the folders that you have. Could you pull those out? Now, Mark and I have another handout. We're going to hand that out when we're ready to speak. But for now, you'll see the order of events here, of who's going to be speaking and the general topics they're going to be speaking on. Again, we'll try to keep it in a reasonable amount of time and then open it up for questions. Also in the folder is a brochure from the bank, from the trust department, that talks about investments and talks about trust services. A lot of the things that Mark's going to be talking about are defined in here, and there's a little bit of a couple of scenarios that you might find interesting. If not now, certainly when you have some time to look through it. You'll also find an evaluation sheet. Now, the evaluation sheet is very important to us because we're trying to put out programs that are of interest to you, not only in the assisted living area, but the general investment, retirement, estate planning areas. Social Security is an important topic. And the more input we get, the better off we'll be. So I'd like to ask you, as soon as you could, to fill out the top information, name, email, home address, if you're still working, whatever. We're also trying to accumulate some demographic information, who you folks are, who has the need. So if you just check off what age group you're in, I promise you we will not tell any woman's age in this room, so don't worry about that. We'll keep it to ourselves. It's very private, confidential. We will not share it with anyone. The above information, the cell number, or the email address. The rest, as you're hearing the program, after the program, if you could check off what you feel appropriate in terms of the numbers, and then fill in some of the blanks, what you'd like to see added, taken away. If you'd like to talk to Mark, if you'd like to talk to Alyssa, if you'd like to talk to me in terms of some of the issues that we'll hopefully raise. And also in the folder is my business card, along with our department manager, Scott Scales, and one of our investment personnel, Jackie Sherman, our business cards. So with that, I guess we're going to start with Maureen. Are we starting right with Maureen?
Yes,
okay, I got
fine.
Maureen right. And she's going to be talking on Maureen.
Adult Day Health Services.
Okay. So we're going to stay up in front so that the TV programming can catch all the presentation. Okay,
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Blaire House. My name's Maureen Galino, and I'm the program director at the Blaire House Adult Day Health Center. I've worked here for about 20 years. For anyone that's not familiar with Adult Day Health, we're a day program for elders. We offer medical services, socialization, meals, medication assistance, transportation to the program. It's for people who live alone that need some support to stay in their home. We have 65 people that attend the program every day, and we do have a memory impaired program for people with memory loss. A lot of people would like to remain in their homes, and we offer that ability for them to remain in their homes. They can come in with us, they can get meals, they can get nursing services, they can get socialization with their peers, and still be able to go back home in the evening. It's a very cost-effective center. The price ranges for private pay, it ranges from $61 to $76 a day. So it really is the most cost-effective option for care, as opposed to, any other services that are out there. We're open Monday through Saturday, 8 hours a day, and we do provide transportation. We can pick people up in their homes and bring them back at the end of the day. They can attend as many as one day or up to 6 days a week. We're open Monday through Saturday. And we service about the service area we do is about 20 miles around Milford. So we go out as far as Wrentham and Blackstone and Millville and Uxbridge, Upton. So we service a pretty big area.
okay. So if no one has any specific question right now, we'll go right along. And we'll ask Terry to speak on private home care.
Good afternoon, everyone. My first question was, how many people know that we have home care? Does anybody know what home care is? Raise your hand. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about it. Home care is what we do to prevent people from staying in their homes as long as they can. We do everything from basically, getting someone there in the morning to assist them in and out of bed, help them get dressed, bathe, make their breakfast, or whatever that they need to do that. We also assist people into going grocery shopping for them so that they have the food and what they need, do their laundry, and maintain their housekeeping so that they're in a safe, clean environment so they can maintain at home. But what a lot of people don't know about private home care is that we go a little bit more than that. We can assist people in going to the doctor's office. If your family, loved ones are working. I know that, my mom is, fortunately, I can't go to every doctor's appointment with my mom. So, I'm able to have someone go with her there so that they can help her, there at the doctor's office to assist her. Another thing that we do that a lot of people don't know is like functions. People have weddings to go to, or they have family functions or summer festivals in the afternoon, and they want their loved one to go. We can assist them to take them to those functions, stay with them, and then when they're tired, we can bring them back home, and the family can stay at that function and remain there to help them. So home care does do a lot, and when people hear about home care, they always think, well, they're gonna help me clean the house, they're gonna do grocery shopping for me, or they're gonna help me in and out of a shower. Absolutely, we do that. But I always want to tell people about the little things that we do. People go on vacations and they'll say, for 2 weeks, can we do a little bit more for my mom or dad? Because I'm going to be away, so we can maintain them, making sure that they're okay. We do a lot of respite also at home. If people go away, for the weekend and we like to have someone stay for 48 hours to stay with my dad or my mom. We do that. So home care has really gone a long way. It's not just the basic home care that we think of. And we have private home care. We also subcontract with other providers like Tri-Valley, Bay Path. So we do have subcontracts with other people that we work together with to help pay for some of these services, and some of it is private. But we do quite a bit. I just wanted to give you a little information, a little bit more beyond the typical home care that is done today. As we know today, we're all busy, our families are busy, but we want to participate in a lot of those functions. We want to participate in going out. We're talking about the symphony. That's something that we could help someone if they want to go to the symphony and they didn't have anybody to take them, or they need an escort to go there. That's something we can do. So it shouldn't just be about being at home. It also should be about socialization, be able to get out of their home and be able to do something with them outside the home so that we can keep them socialized and interested in life.
Okay. You know what, I think we will ask for some questions now, if you can think of anything, or if you came with a particular purpose on daycare or home care.
Just real quick, Maureen said that adult day is $60 to $70 a day. How do they charge for services for private home care?
For the adult day health or the home care?
Home care.
For private home care,
Okay.
how do they charge for those services?
Okay, we charge them by different levels of services. So we do charge private pay, and it could go anything like from $20 to $25 an hour, based on what you need. If it's from companion to personal care to certified home health aide. So that's the average.
I have long-term care. Does any long-term care take care of that?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that. We do
I
have,
haven't used it yet.
Okay.
I've had it since I was 70.
well, good for you. Well, that's good.
Last year.
I think it covers.
Yes, that's, yeah, we
I
do.
wish that.
We do have quite a bit of people with long-term insurance, and let me tell you how that works. So people who have long-term insurance are able to access to health care and home care, and we can do that on the private sector. The only thing we ask people is, when we do start, is that we get a copy of your policy. We call the long-term insurance, so we do all the backup work, we do all the footwork. Our office manager or myself will call the insurance, we'll have your policy in front of us. They will tell us then how many hours you're authorized. So for an example, like, just thinking top of my head, because I do several offices, I know the other day we have someone who can do 60 hours a week. And we have another client that has up to 84 hours a week. So it's all based on what your long-term insurance policy was written up to. And these young men probably can explain more about that than I can. But whatever it is, that's how we do. But long-term insurance does pay for it. We just, look into see how many hours you're authorized.
And this young man will address that. The key in everybody, if you have long-term care, or if you're considering long-term care insurance policies, and I think it's like a disability policy, basically. The real key are the definitions in the policy. For example, some might not cover adult day, and it'll say it specifically. It may not even cover assisted living. So it's all in the definitions that you bought, basically. And that's a reflection of the premiums that you're paying. A very streamlined policy will have a very basic premium. And of course, the one that has, like buying a car. The more accessories you have, the better it is, especially if you're doing a long-term trip, but the cost is commensurate equal to. So, and that's what I think was mentioned by Terry, that they'll help you through that. And I just ran into a case where that was exactly what happened. It was like, reading a very complicated document, and they walked the person through. And at first, the insurance company was a little reluctant to pay. It was kind of borderline terminology. And then with their help and expertise, they were able to get the benefit, she's receiving the benefit, and that's what it was designed for.
I have a booklet at home that I think I got at the senior center, I'm not sure where I got it. And a couple of assisted livings, they do take long-term care, but I didn't see it for this place. I don't know if they take it or not, because it does pay
Anybody?
for some of that.
It could be, and I don't know that this place just recently opened up, and might not be on it, but that's something that we can, Alyssa can call and, look into the policy,
Alyssa's here, so.
and help you with that. But it could be that it's just a new place, and they might not have had it, when they print out the books, they might not have it when they printed it out.
Probably
Yeah.
2 years old before.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know where I got it.
I think also, it's not so much facility-specific, community-specific. It's the general definition of
Right.
what an assisted living community is, what a nursing home situation is, et cetera. Okay, we've had the star arrive.
Sorry.
Okay, first things came first, but right now, I'd like to introduce you to Alyssa Sudum. She's the community director. She's also a licensed social worker, and let me just tell you about that. In working with a lot of communities, obviously, different people, different community directors bring different things to the table, if you will. So Alyssa, as a licensed social worker, really brings more value than some, because she understands, we're working on a case right now where, because of her background, because of her empathy for the client, she created a team of people, lawyers, financial people, real estate people, to come together to make this woman's transition much more workable than maybe someone else that would say, well, look, if you want to come, well, you're welcome. You know, here's the keys, basically, here's the bill. This is a lot more. So with that, I'll introduce you to Alyssa. She's going to talk on 3 things, and she could talk forever. So I'm going to ask her to just cover a little introduction to Blaire House, a little introduction on assisted living, and another introduction on skilled nursing and rehabilitation. The floor is all yours. We've got about 3 hours left.
The clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. Thank you so much. And as you can see, sometimes things come up and you have to, we're very patient and resident focused. So we like to take care of that need when it arises. So basically, the title of this entire topic is the continuum of care. And what is a continuum of care? Why is a continuum of care a benefit to me, to anyone? What makes the Blaire House stand out amongst all of the places that are 5 minutes away in every direction? There's a nursing and a rehab center. There's an assisted living. Why is a continuum of care something that I would want for my parent, my loved one? When you are faced with a decision of needing to move mom, yourself, I need to go to the next level of care, it's a tough decision. It's an emotional decision. It's a stressful decision. We try to make the transition as smooth as possible. By developing a continuum, we have in place here in this campus a multitude of services so that you fit in somewhere along the line. So we talked about adult day health, home care. We have senior transportation to and from doctor's appointments. We now have the assisted living. We also have a skilled nursing and rehab center. And soon we're looking at independent living, which would be an over 55 community here. That means when you become part of the Blaire House community, you never have to go anywhere else. You never have to go through the process of decision making. We have everything you need here. The goal for continuum of care is to be able to age in place. As your needs change, you just change the service that you're receiving. That's what we're hoping we've created here. And hopefully less stress. The other piece is that we guarantee, once you become a member of any one of our entities, we guarantee you a spot in any of our other programs. And that's something that's very different from a lot of the facilities in the area. Availability, making sure that there's a rehab bed open, or that there's a long-term care bed open, or that there's an assisted living. We guarantee that no matter what, you will have a space with us. So that's, I think, one of the things I stress the importance of the continuum and why it's such a great thing to have in your community. We want you to be able to move throughout as your needs change. So we talked about adult day health, we talked about the home care. The skilled nursing and rehab center is part of our continuum. Typically, you would need that if your health care needs changed, you were in the hospital for a procedure, you were in the hospital for an illness, you needed a little bit of rehab before going home. We have that service as well. And sometimes we have a loved one that needs more care than we can provide at home, that we can provide in daycare, that we can provide in assisted living, and you need that long-term care level of care. We have the nursing home for that as well. The assisted living, which is the newest part of our continuum, is something that I am very involved in at this point now because we just opened in May. So the assisted living has been here, open May 1st, 2015. We are just tipping over 50-60% occupancy. And there are a lot of assisted livings in the area. You can drive in directions 5 minutes each way and you're going to bump into another assisted living, and there are more popping up everywhere. And the difference is with our Blaire House assisted living is that you are part of our continuum. I tell people all the time, the first thing you should be, when you're touring and when you're looking at places, you should be asking, what happens if I run out of funds? What happens when my needs change and I can't stay here anymore? What do I do? Those really are your first questions. You want to know the answers to that. So our assisted living here has a 19 memory care unit. We only have 42 apartments total. We are very small, as you can see even from this room. We are very small. We are very homey. Our care, I think, is individualized. Everybody knows you and your needs and your likes and your dislikes. Here, you're not one of 85 people. You're one of 42 people. You're able to really get to know the community and the people who are here. When you're moving in, you come into tour. That's when we determine where you fit in the assisted living. The 19 apartments in the memory care unit is a separate unit. There are 23 apartments in the traditional true assisted living. And, it's your home, and we want you to make it as homey as possible. So I think we touched on all of our different services. Certainly, I want to see if there's any specific questions that we haven't already answered about maybe how you pay for assisted living, what's covered under, what's covered as far as what do we provide, what does my insurance pay for this? So if there's, we can talk a little bit about that. Typically, when you need long-term placement, when you need assisted living, it's not covered by your medical insurance. It's not covered by Medicare or your HMO insurance. It's just unfortunate. It's just not covered. So it's either a private pay situation where you use funds, you use your savings, you use that monies to pay for that apartment setting. We also have the Veterans Association. So if you are a veteran or you are the spouse of a veteran, there is a veterans benefit called the VA Aid and Attendance, and they also provide a stipend amount depending on whether you are the veteran or whether you are the spouse of a veteran. There's an amount that you can apply for. We also do accept in the assisted living as well as the nursing and the rehab center, we accept the long-term care insurance. So depending on where your insurance originates from, we would just ask you to bring that in so that we can call and we can look. There's certain, I think they call them riders, there are certain riders on these policies. Some do not include assisted living, some do. We just would have to call and find that out. But those are the two ways that you can supplement what you have in savings, and what you have for income would be the VA Aid and Attendance program, as well as any long-term care insurance that you have that helps pay for assisted living or long-term placement.
Okay, we're going to definitely want to address some of those questions that Alyssa raised, and we will save those for a little bit later. If I can make an editorial comment, we're talking about a very complex topic here, and an emotional one, because it involves, people that we love and all. But what I've been impressed with in talking with all the communities, for that matter, but particularly here at Blaire, that there's a simplicity. All the things that you heard, they kind of take care of those things. You just try to comprehend, understand it, and pay for it, I might add. But all that is brought to your attention, spelt out in very simple terms, and you can get on with life as you would like it. So it's a real credit to them and what Blaire House has brought to Milford.
And if I could just interject for a minute, Tony, I've worked here for 17 years. I've been here since it was my first job, 23 years old. Don't do the math, but I've been here since I was 23. I've worked with Maureen as long as I've worked here. We can finish each other's sentences. We talk, we can talk a case through together. Terry as well. It really is a team approach. And I will tell you, there are many times I might not be able to meet your needs. Maureen can't meet your needs. Something's going on that it's not a fit at the Blaire House. But I will tell you, when you call us, when you ask the question of us, you never lose us. We become your social worker team for pretty much the rest of your life. You can't get rid of us. We will stick with you until you find what you need. Even if it isn't us, even if it's not the Blaire House, we will stay with you. We will make calls with you. We will hook you up with the right person, and we won't stop until the process is finished. So I really want you to take away, if anything, from this. When you make that call and you ask us those questions, you will receive the service, and if we can't provide it, you will know where to go to get it.
Liz, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself? I know I've mentioned you're a social worker. We won't talk about age.
Okay.
But experience, just a quick one about you, because I'm going to ask the other ladies also.
Okay. So I am a graduate of Springfield College. I studied a multiple of rehab services. It really, when I graduated, I found out it really wasn't a degree of it. It was just a potpourri degree, had a little sprinkle of everything in there. I decided and found out my passion was social work pretty quickly on. I think my parents knew. I think everybody knew I was, but you don't know that of yourself. I moved to Florida for a few years after graduation, hooked up with a great company down in Florida, started some social work, and when I had an illness in my family, I moved back home and found an opening at the Blaire House, and have never moved since 1998. I've been here since. So we have grown tremendously as a company, and we've done so many different things, and we've made changes as, healthcare has changed so much. There's so much that isn't covered. There's so much that your insurance doesn't pay for. There's so much that you need that you can't get, that you don't know how to get. And I think what our owners have done and what this company has done is really saw that need and tried to change with the times. So for me, I found a home here, and this is where I plan to spend.
Probably never leave.
I don't think I will. Being family owned and operated means something. The owners and the people, they treat us like family. We are family, and that really resonates with how we do things. And I think that when you're treated like family, you stay. And I think our staff feels that way as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, Terry, just a little bit.
Sure. I went to Bryant College, Bryant University now, in Springfield, Rhode Island, and I've been doing home care for over 30 years. Home care has always been a passion for me because I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Portugal. So I came at the age of 6 here. So my culture was always to take care of our family members. And I fell in love with that when I left college. My dad got, back then they didn't know it was Alzheimer's, so I moved back home. And I was being the only daughter in our culture, even though I have 2 brothers, it was my responsibility to take care of my parents. So home care became a very important part of me. So I started home care at a very young age, and I've done anything from, working in a home from subacute, bringing people from the hospital and doing a 6 week rehab for knee replacements, to hip replacements and falling. Home care's grown and it's changed a lot, like I talked to you before. Before home care was just a basic thing of cleaning your house and doing that, but it's not. It's very different. And I'd like to emphasize something Alyssa said, that when we're talking about a continuum care, the good thing about having a continuum care that I see, being part of this organization for few years, is that we are your eyes and ears. So when we're at home, our aides or our nurse sees what's going on, and we can talk to the families about it before it becomes a crisis, before you end up in the emergency room, or before you end up in a crisis center. We're able to come back and talk about it and talk with them, these people, and say, hey, this is what's going on with our client. What do you suggest? Then we call the families and we talk about it so that it's not a last-minute crisis. It's very hard sometimes when you're put in certain situations at home. We all want what's best for our family members and our loved one, but it is hard. It's hard when you work and you have your own, you're younger, you work, you have your own family, and now you have to take care of this additional family. And there's a quote that said that you will spend more time taking care of your parents than you take care of your children. And I can justify for that.
Yeah.
I have 4 children. I actually take care of my parents more than I take care of all of them. So, and when we talk about a continued care, we'll take care of that, right from the beginning. We're going to try to eliminate as much stress and give you facts right up front, and where you think this can go and where you want it to go, and where it's starting right from home care, right from adult day health. So that's the team that Alyssa's talking about that makes us a little bit different. It makes me proud to be with a family-owned organization, because them themselves have gone through the process of taking care of their parents, and they understand. And when you're a family-owned operation, we can do so much more than being with this big corporate world. I was with the corporate world for many years. I worked at Mass General. I worked for Pathways of America. And things take a while to process through the line. With a family-owned operation, I can just call in 5-10 minutes. We can have a meeting. We can make things happen. And to me, that's what healthcare should be. That should be what the quality of life should be in your home, rather in your home, adult day health, or an assisted living, or even a short-term rehab. You need to have the quality care. We have to keep your dignity, and we got to keep where you want to live.
Maureen, thank you.
That's all right. As I said, I'm Maureen Galino. I'm a graduate of Northeastern University. My degree is in therapeutic recreation. I've worked here for 20 years, and I've worked with the elderly since 1978, so don't do the math. So that's always been my love. I love adult day health. I think it's the best option. Nothing against anybody else, but it is definitely the most cost-effective. And like I said before, it keeps people in their home. They are able to come to the program during the day and go home. And for most people, that's really where they want to be. If they can be there and get the support services from the home care, from the adult day health, we can keep people home. And I think that's what's made adult day health a real success. We have 65 slots, and the company is so invested, we're actually going to be building on to a 120-slot program. There's just a big need. We're expecting all the baby boomers to be coming soon. Of course, I'll probably be one of them, so I might be in the program myself. But we just see the value of that. Like Alyssa said, we can offer just so many different services. And I can vouch for what Alyssa said. I've had so many people call me looking for information, and have said to me, and I'm sure they said to Alyssa, you have given me more information than anybody I've ever called, because we don't drop. We try to find the right resource for people, whether it's with us or not. If we can answer your questions, we will, and we'll help you through the whole process, because it is very daunting. When you really start to look for care for an elder or care for yourself, it's a real daunting process, so we're just there to help you.
Okay, great, Maureen, thank you. If I had 2 words to describe what they just said, they're very experienced and they're very passionate about what they do. That's pretty much where it's at. Now, another gentleman who's passionate about what he does is Mark. Mark, again, represents the legal aspect of some of the concerns that the ladies have. The reason why we asked Mark to attend was because we recently started, actually through Alyssa, a relationship with his firm. We in the Wealth Management Trust Department, we're generally working with estate planning, elder care type attorneys, as opposed to real estate and other areas of the law. So we really struck up a good relationship because their feelings and our feelings are the same. Certainly the competency is there and the experience is there. So Mark's going to give you a summary of some of the things. There's a lot of stuff that he could say, but we want to give you some of the highlights of what you might want to start thinking about, and Judy's going to pass out a little handout for you.
Thanks. Stand up so you can hear me in the back. So I like the way that Alyssa described the process as a continuum of care, and I think we like to think about our practice the same way with estate planning, that it's really something that you kind of do all life long. And you think about a young family with young kids would like to get something in place to care for them through guardians. And then as you get older, you start thinking kids are moving on to college and growing up into adulthood, and okay, what's left for me and what can I do to protect it and provide for them if something happens to me? And then even further on, we get to the point of long-term care issues. And okay, I had some planning I've done throughout my life, but is it going to change at all? So we look at estate planning from a very similar lens. And then as Tony mentioned, all we do is trust and estate work and elder law, probate, and some business planning. So we focus on those areas only. And I think that's important, similar to how Blaire House is structured, where there's very specialized services all under one roof, and that's what we focus on and provide as well. So we have a handout, an outline there of some major points of estate planning, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about each. We have a limited amount of time, and I don't want to make your head spin any more than they already might be. So if you've asked questions like, who will care for me if I can't care for myself, and what's going to happen with my assets? Will they be preserved? And who will care for loved ones, or will my assets be able to be passed on to loved ones? You're asking estate planning questions, and you're speaking my language at that point. And really, estate planning is planning for managing and then eventually passing on assets, and also putting in place documents to care for loved ones. If you don't have an estate plan at all, or if you do and it's out of date, it can leave you in what we call the pits. And I've listed them out here, and I'd like to go through each of them. And the pits we see as the major issues of estate planning. Regardless of what stage you're in, whether it's still at home, thinking about selling the home and moving into independent living or assisted living, or whether you're already in assisted living and contemplating what happens if I need a higher level of care, or if you're about to enter the nursing center. We think that a lot of these issues in the pits are still in play, and they're really touched upon regardless of what we're talking about. So we are big believers in trusts, as you could probably tell by the name of the firm, Borscher's Trust Law. And I want to talk first in general about what a trust is, and then what are some of the ways that it can address the PITs. And just a brief definition of PITs. PITs is going to stand for protection, incapacity, transfers to beneficiaries, taxes, and then support. So there are really four main ingredients to a trust. And I think people might have misconceptions about what a trust is and what it can do. A common one is, well, I don't have a lot of assets. I mean, trusts are for wealthy individuals. How is that going to help me? It seems like it's overkill. I think another misperception is that trusts just mean I'm giving up control of everything, and I don't want that. So trusts are made up of a grantor, so that's the person that's creating the trust, a trustee, the person who's managing the trust, property, you have to put something in it, those are your assets, and then beneficiaries, who's ultimately going to benefit from it. So those are four main ingredients, and to put it in perspective, I like to tell the story. We have a routine at home. I have 3 young girls, ages 7, 4, and almost 1 in a week. And we have our routine, not with the 1-year-old right now, but with the others, where we get our snack at night and go upstairs and read books together. And so my 4-year-old, when she was a little bit younger, was in that stage where she just wanted to do everything herself. So she wanted to get the snack together and take it up to her older sister. So we would do that. We'd take out the snack of the night, Lorna Doone cookies, graham crackers, whatever it might be, and fill up the snack bowls. The 4-year-old would take it upstairs to her older sister, spilling a few on the way, of course, and eventually make the handoff. So that right there is a trust. Okay, if you think about who's the grantor or the creator of the trust, well, that's me. Who is the trustee, the person in charge of the trust? Well, that's the 4-year-old daughter. What's the property that we put into the trust? The snack. And then who's the beneficiary? Well, the 7-year-old upstairs. So that's really all you're doing when you set up a trust, is structuring this relationship so things could eventually pass on. Trusts come in 2 different forms. We very common hear about a revocable trust and then an irrevocable trust. And they're pretty much just how they sound. You know, revocable means you can change it and revoke it. And irrevocable is the opposite. You can't change it, and you're giving up some control. But again, they both of them will address a lot of the issues that we're going to talk about in the pits here. So number one, with protection, trusts can provide protection from probate. So probate's that court-involved process. When someone passes away, we have to take their will through the court in order to get access to what they own. And we aren't crazy about probate because it's public and it's time-consuming and it's costly. So having a trust can avoid that. The other form of protection is long-term care. And namely, we're speaking about the point now where we touched on it earlier. You know, how are we going to cover the cost of the care, whether it's assisted living or eventually moving on to that higher skilled care of nursing? And with a revocable trust, we can get at what we need. You know, it's revocable. You can access what's in it. So that's great for paying for some of the basic independent care. But what if you needed nursing home level care? Well, now we're in a different realm. And there, if you have just a basic revocable trust, you can access it and get at it. So if you can, then that means you have to spend it on that care. And we'd have to look at trying to do, if you want to preserve, if the top goal in your plan is to preserve assets, then you consider an irrevocable trust. And the timing with that is tricky. You know, it's not something that you can do a week before you need nursing home care. You know, there's a look-back period, you may have heard about a 5-year look-back period. So if you want to protect anything, it has to go into an irrevocable trust 5 years before you needed that level of care. I had a client that I just met with this week, actually, on Monday, and it's a husband and wife, and the husband is in, it's a similarly structured facility as Blaire House, where there's an assisted living component and then also a nursing center. And the husband is in the assisted living, and his wife is next door in the nursing center. And they had a basic revocable trust. So they sold their home last fall, and now they have $500,000 of cash just sitting in a bank account in a revocable trust. Well, the husband is sick with stage 4 lung cancer. So he, unfortunately, probably doesn't have much longer. So one thing we recommended, and it's counterintuitive when you're thinking about trust, is we really need to take everything out of the revocable trust account and actually put it in the husband's name if we want to try to qualify his wife to get Mass Health to pay for her care. You know, you're moving around assets, and the daughter went to the bank to tell them, okay, we need to take this out of the trust and put it in my father's name. And they said, you want to do what? You just came to us and said, put it in the trust, and now you want to take it out. So sometimes that's what happens. The trust planning can be great if it's done properly and done ahead of time, and sometimes it has to be undone. So, we're experienced in doing all of that. Trusts can also help with the issue of incapacity. And you think about, all right, if I'm disabled, we know about healthcare proxies and powers of attorney. Those are basic documents. But a trust is great for disability because you're naming your trustee to be able to manage your finances for you. A power of attorney can do that, but you're just giving a power of attorney blanket power to access finances. You're not really giving them any instructions about what to do with your assets. So you do that in a trust. A trust can help when you're transferring your eventual whatever's remaining to beneficiaries. You really have two options at that point. Am I going to give it to them outright, or am I going to give it to them with some protections in place in further trust? And the issues are, do I want to try to protect my beneficiaries from divorce, disputes, disability, any debts that they have? We call them the killer Ds. So if you pass on an inheritance to a child and that child subsequently goes through a divorce, that inheritance could be subject, 50% of it could potentially go to the ex-spouse. So is there a way that you could pass on the inheritance protected? And yes, you do that with a trust. The other T in PITS is taxes. We're referring to a couple different kinds of taxes. I won't spend too much time on them, but in Massachusetts, if you have more than $1 million in assets, then you pay an estate tax at death. And assets are your home, bank accounts, investment accounts, even life insurance. You have to look at the death benefit on a life insurance policy. And if all of those things add up to more than $1 million, you pay a tax, roughly 10% on anything above $1 million. And something also worth noting is capital gains. So if you were to set up a trust, put your home in it, and then later on decide we need to sell the home because we're going to go into Blaire House. What's going to happen for tax purposes? Will I have to pay any capital gains tax when I sell my home? Well, typically if the home is just in your name and it's your personal residence, you're allowed an exclusion from capital gains tax. Capital gains tax is just, you paid $50,000 for the house when you bought it 30 years ago. Today it's worth $500,000. So there's a $450,000 gain that you would potentially pay tax on. If it's your personal residence and you're married, you can actually exclude up to $500,000 of gain. So in that example, there'd be no capital gains tax. It would all be excluded. But what happens if you put it in a trust? Does that change? And the way we structure ours, and with most revocable trusts, the answer is no, that doesn't change. So you can still have property owned by a trust and have it subject to the exemption from the capital gains tax. And last point to make is just the importance of support. And I mentioned earlier, having even an outdated plan can leave you vulnerable. So we stress the importance of not only updating or putting something in place, but then continually monitoring it on a regular basis with us through some support programs where we look at your situation and see what's happened in the past year, and then we inform you if there have been any significant changes in the law that are affecting your plan. So keeping everything current, you've spent a lot of time and effort putting the right things in place. Let's make sure that they work. So that's what we do in a nutshell.
Well, great, Mark. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just a couple of comments. It's a very complex topic. I thought he made it about as simple as you can make it. I even understood it. He also mentioned a lot of people, yourselves, think that trusts are for the wealthy. Well, it doesn't take a lot of thought to say if I own a house and I have some dollars in the bank, I maybe have some investments, I may own some property, those values add up pretty quickly. So you may be more wealthy than you think. Even when we changed our bank name, we were the Investment and Trust Group. We've recently changed it to the Wealth Management Group and Trust Services. And we were afraid that people would think, well, they didn't have enough money to work with us. The fact is, if you have a checkbook, that's your wealth. So we're gonna emphasize more the management of it than the amount of it. And that's where, again, people get a little lost in the shuffle of things. So in terms of Mark's case, using trusts where they're appropriate, whichever type, really might have a place. I'm on next, but how about before I come on, you stand up and stretch a little bit. Okay, we'll try to get started. I got a couple of commercials first. If you haven't noticed, there's a Blaire House brochure on the middle table, plus a free pen, so that you're welcome to that. Also, I want to make you aware that we're running part of the collaborative, we're running a similar program with personnel from Whitcomb House in 2 weeks from today, very similar format. And then on March 23rd, we're doing a similar format at Cornerstone. And just one quick story. This is a business, we know that. But these ladies work very cooperatively among other communities. For example, I'm pretty sure the first story I heard about Alyssa was that either Alyssa had someone for that moment, because it was a kind of a crisis situation that she couldn't accommodate, so she called Beth down at Cornerstone to see, at least temporarily, was it that way? Mm-hmm. Okay, it was that way, that if Beth could help her out and obviously help out the client. And of course, she did. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a win-win situation. I'm not sure if she stayed there, I'm not sure if she's back mm-hmm. here, but the fact is that wasn't the real issue. The real issue was, how can we solve this problem, for this family, not just the person. So that's what we're kind of working with. Also, the brochure that's in your folder, I know you get a lot of these whenever you go anywhere, but there's some good stuff, and a lot of the information that Mark spoke of is in here defined for you. So that goes with the program. And lastly, I asked you about the evaluation form. Now, I haven't spoken yet, so I probably should ask that you do it now before you hear me. But if you could, as I'm finishing up, or as we finish up, and during the panel discussion, just go through this, other than the personal information, again, which will be confidential, just looking if you strongly agree or strongly disagree with the numbers. We purposely did 7, so you can't be right in the middle. And things of interest to you, other presentations that you might like on whatever topic. Social Security is always a popular topic, but whatever. I mean, that's what we're trying to serve the public with. And then there's a little information on Alyssa in terms of follow-up, because we will follow up in one form or another. If you'd like to, if you're being served by an attorney, fine. If you'd like to get another opinion, Mark would be very happy to do that, so you can just indicate there. Similarly, on the financial aspect side of it, if you want to compare, if you want to just talk about stuff. And remember that wealth thing. You don't have to be wealthy. We're emphasizing the management side. And if there's anything specifically that Mark, Alyssa, or the other ladies can do, just drop that down. Okay, so we really appreciate that. And please, you can't leave. You can't leave unless we get one of these. The doors are barred already. So, if you have my sheet, it's a two-sided sheet. And what I've done, I've given you a commercial about the Milford National Bank and Trust Company. I won't go into it. Other than that, we're in 3 core business areas: the retail banking and what we do, the lending products and what we do, and the wealth management, investment, and trust department, which is kind of the best kept secret in town, so we want to get that word out. And I just want to make mention on the personal trust services. I don't know if you understand what that means, but basically in some capacity situations, in some situations, an elderly situation, or maybe even a significant estate situation, we're able to step in as a sole trustee or a co-trustee, possibly with a family member, and help manage those assets. And again, as Mark said, we're given instructions. We don't do things arbitrarily. We're given instructions as to what the family wants to do, what the grantor wants us to do. And in some cases, we do that over generations. We have some money. The bank opened in 1849. We still have some of those $1849 on deposit. No, we don't. In other words, there's some people made deposits to be distributed over generations, and that's what we're still doing. And all the services involved, we're taking care of. There's also our locations. If you're not familiar, there are 3 locations. And I asked Kristen Cavallo, our CEO and president, to address a couple of comments. She's not able to be here. And she just expressed herself in terms of what the Milford National Bank, as a community bank, has done and is trying to do, and hopefully will continue in the future. Okay, commercial's over. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Tony Chinapi. Other than being a former teacher, coach, and athletic director and all that early on, I spent the last 30 years as a certified financial planner with Ameriprise Financial. 30 years is a long time, and I'm only 26. I don't know how I could do that, but 36, 46, I guess. And you come across a lot of situations. So I want to share with you what we're doing as a bank, because we're very high on the financial planning process. I don't have any answers for anybody here, because I don't know what your situation is. And that's what it would take. It would take, if anyone approached you saying, I have the answer for you, in my pocket, run away from that person. You've got to do some work, some preliminary work first. Let me show you how we do it. The first thing we do is talk in terms of goals. Today, we're trying to equip you to better handle this assisted living or whatever the appropriate living setting is. That's the goal. Now, how do we get there? We assume a certain role, and that role for us is to look at all of your financial goals, define them. It's not good enough to say, I want to retire. I want to retire when? On what amount of money do I want to retire on? And define it so that way, and then project how long that money is going to last. I was talking with the young ladies. Oh, we still that young in there, huh?
We like that.
And the topic always comes up, will I outlast my money? Or will my money outlast me? That's the question that everybody has on their mind. No one has ever come back to me saying, I've got too much money. A lot of people have come back saying, I don't have enough. And what do I do at 80 years old? It's a real tough one to deal with. And we're very familiar with the cost of aging. Matter of fact, we're hoping to put together a seminar just on that. The numbers that you see historically are staggering from when, like back in the 1900s, what the not only the standard of living, but the general life expectancy was, and what it is now. We know that. And we deal with the realities of dealing with that situation, excuse me. Again, as a community bank, what we're trying to do, and what I'm trying to do here today, is be a resource for you, a financial resource. We want to be able to provide relevant information to you that's really usable. That brochure, for example, is a good synopsis of a lot of financial issues. And we want to provide workable solutions for you. We don't want to just lead you out there. We want to carry it through and really put you in a position that you feel comfortable with where you're at, that you can afford it, and if there's a legacy to be passed on, then all well and good. How do we do that? We follow the financial planning process. I've mentioned that a couple of times. And what that basically is, again, looking to see what your goals are and defining them. We get in, whenever we sit down with anybody, for example, I say, why don't you come in, we'll have a 15-minute meeting. I've never had a 15-minute meeting. Every meeting that I have is about 2 hours. I'll say an hour and a half. Because I want to know what your financial position is. What's your income? And this is all confidential, needless to say. It's all based on trust. What's your income? What's your expenses? What's your cash flow? What kind of equity do you have? What kind of reserves do you have? Those are all basic numbers. Then we want to look into your protection situation. We want to know if you have any life insurance, disability, long-term care, what your property and casualty situation is. Are your deductibles in the proper order? Are you spending more money than you should? No one likes to spend money for insurance, especially for insurance that you don't know if you're ever going to really need. We look into your tax planning. No one likes to pay more income tax than they have to. A lot of us are, because we're neglecting some of the details. If we could determine where the money went, I don't think we'd feel so bad. But half the money goes out of the country anyways. So, if you're gonna pay taxes, you wanna pay as little as you have to legally. And there's a lot to that. I'm minimizing it right now, but there's a lot to that. Mark made reference to estate taxes, which is another animal basically. But the combination of working estate planning wise and with an attorney and a financial advisor, not many things fall through the cracks. There are two kinds of investment planning. Investment planning of your personal assets, mutual funds, certificates, whatever, and retirement assets. Retirement assets generally have some tax qualified status. It's generally pre-tax dollars. So you have to manage those, so when you take the money out, you're aware of the tax consequences and obviously the long nature of those dollars lasting. Your personal investment planning also becomes a part of your retirement planning, but it's treated a little bit different tax-wise, and generally the money's a little bit more available, and there are certain things you can do on the retirement side not to negatively impact you that you might want to not consider on the personal investment side. Personal investing, retirement investing. And the whole retirement scenario, again, needs to be defined. Will I have enough money? We'll do a projection out to 89, whatever age you want to. I've got a longevity in my family, so by the numbers, I'm going to be here for a while, so I better have enough money, because or else, things lifestyle-wise are going to change pretty quickly. We have a theme at the bank, and it's very simply, I just forgot it. It's so simple, I forgot it. It's your money, your future. What you do now is going to determine financially your future. How comfortable you'll be, how your mind will be at ease that you're going to do it, you and your spouse, no matter what befalls you. And you can follow along with me in terms of what we do, and this is what we've done with Alyssa in a couple of cases. We've worked with existing family advisors, be they accountants, attorneys, bankers, insurance people. In some cases, we might recommend certain advisors to enter in the situation. That's how we met Mark, and how I met another realtor in town, through this particular case. So we're not bashful to reach out into the community. Very similarly, sometimes I don't know everything, and Mark doesn't know everything. Alyssa might, but the most of us probably don't. So we might bring in a geriatric case manager. We might bring in any kind of a healthcare group like we're looking here to get some of the answers. We've even brought in a young lady that pays bills for someone. Real estate people to sell property when there are issues. And almost lastly, like a situation we're dealing with Alyssa now, we do crisis planning. Alyssa brought a woman to us that she was already here, and her house was there, and all her belongings were there, but she needed to stay here. And we worked out all the details in terms of selling her home, her car, transferring her assets, and in this case, there was no family. So we became the family. Matter of fact, her team has become her family. A lot of times with guys like me, people say, well, what do you want to sell today? We're really not trying. We'll sell anything that works for you in terms of products and services. What we're really trying to do is provide the right solutions for you at the right time, and hopefully at a time before we're in crisis. So with that, I'm going to try to open up things. We hope you have some questions, because if not, we're going to raise some questions. I'm going to start off with a question, because I know this gentleman was kind of alluding to it. Cost. We've heard about some of the daycare. Alyssa, can you just elaborate on some of the costs involved, generally speaking?
For the assisted living?
Yeah, assisted living.
Our costs start at $35.50 a month. We have several different apartments. We have shared apartments. We have studio apartments, and we have one-bedroom apartments. So what that includes is your rent. It includes weekly housekeeping. It includes your linens and your towels and things are washed weekly as well. It includes socialization. It includes all of the activities. What it does not include would be personal laundry. We do have laundry services here that you can certainly utilize and use. We don't do your personal laundry. Phone and cable would be a separate charge, just like it is at your home. You would pay separately for your own phone and your own cable. And if you need help with medication, if you're forgetful, if mom or dad aren't taking their medication, we have a program called SAM. It's Self-Administration Medication Management. There's a separate fee for that, and we'll actually go into the apartment in a locked box, take out the medication, dispense it to your loved one or to yourself, and then lock it back up so that you know mom or dad or yourself, you're getting your medication every day, the right time, the right dose. And that's very similar across the board at all assisted livings. This is pretty much the structure. There's a pay for room and board, and then there are other things that are either included or not included. And then lastly, personal physical care is something that we charge separately for also. Some people say, some people are all inclusive. Their initial fee for the rent might be a little bit higher because they include the care. Some people do a tier level where if you use 1 minute of care up to 15 minutes of care per day, you pay this amount of money. Blaire House decided to do it per minute. And the reason we did that is you should not pay for anything you don't use. So in that tier program, if you really, mom only needs help tying her shoes or putting on her shoes because her hands are arthritic and she can't get her shoes on. How long does that really take to put your shoes on? 30 seconds? So twice a day, we're going to put your shoes on and off, and you've paid $1 for that service. Rather than at the tier level of programming, you're paying 1 minute up to 15 minutes is $400 a month. So we decided to take it out of that equation and do things separately and bill them separately. So that's a little bit of the breakdown. Again, there are ways of supplementing that as far as the veteran services, long-term care insurances, those types of things too. So we're certainly willing to talk. If you have any specific questions about your own case, we can do that after. But
Great. Obviously, there's a lot of information she just reiterated, and as a result, that's where you've got to see her or one of the other ladies, the other young ladies. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes?
The assisted living apartment, how many rooms is that? Is that just one room?
we have 3 different options, as I mentioned. We have a shared unit where there would be 2 individuals, whether it's a husband and a wife, if they wanted separate bedrooms, or it may be on our memory care unit where they may not necessarily remember that they have a roommate. There's a bedroom here with a private door. There's a bedroom here with a private door, and then they would share a small living room and a small bathroom area. Most often, it's a studio apartment, which is what we have the most of, and that's one large room, which also has a bathroom as well. And then we have 1-bedroom apartments where you have a separate little kitchen area, a separate little living room area, and then a door to your private bedroom with a bathroom. So those are our 3 types.
Is that all part of the memory care unit?
We have them on both units, yes. We have 1-bedroom units on both memory care and traditional.
So if somebody were in here in assisted living and the spouse was in the memory care unit, you'd be paying for both?
We would probably speak about your individual case, and sometimes what ends up happening is one has the memory care need, the other one doesn't. And if they wanted to be in the same apartment, we would make that arrangement for you.
What's that go for?
The one bedroom is 52.
There's obviously an economics about this, and again, that's why you've got to bring your situation to Alyssa or the other young ladies to see what fits all. One size doesn't fit all.
Right.
Did that answer your question? Okay, great. Something else? Please.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is something that can be answered easily. My father-in-law lives in Maryland, and there's been talk about maybe him coming up here. Recently, he had an injury there, so he's actually going back into a nursing home there. But there's always this talk about maybe bringing him up here to be with us. And is there a time limit or a weight limit that he would have to stay with us? Or is that something we could plan if we heard him, you know, if we knew he was coming, say, in the summer, we could start a plan now and try to figure that out?
Yep. Do you mind? If you, what I heard, social worker ear heard, is there a time limit as far as how long he has to live with us before we can start? Makes me think of if you need to apply for subsidy, if you need to apply for Mass Health, if you need to apply for those types of services, obviously he's in Maryland, he's not a Massachusetts resident. So there is a time frame for doing that, and depending on which entity you're going to need, we've recommended several different scenarios. When you come from out of state, sometimes it's urgent, sometimes it's an emergency. As long as you can pay, we work with Tri-Valley, and this is a Medicaid Mass Health answer that I'm giving you. If you need Mass Health to pay, as long as you can afford, save a little bit of his funds, afford to pay privately for 3 to 5 days as soon as he comes into Massachusetts, if you can pay the nursing facility or the rehab center 3 days, then that establishes residency, and then the nursing facility can assist with the enormous amount of paperwork that needs to be done to go and get the Mass Health approved. But that's what we attorneys have advised us. We've, believe me, exhausted every avenue possible throughout the years to get this to work. 2 days private pay in a nursing facility is about $700. So if you can save $700, then you can get them in from another state so that your residency begins, and then the nursing facility can assist you with that Medicaid application.
How long does it take to get a Medicaid application
Completed by filling it out or approved?
approved?
It could take roughly anywhere from, I would say roughly 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 3 months to get it approved.
Yeah, in our experience, we found, you know, we also assist with those, and yeah, that's been our experience is, no.
Weeks.
Weeks. It kind of depends on the case. I've had a few where, a couple weeks after submitting it, we've already received a response that they're looking for some more information. And I have colleagues that have been waiting, close to 5 or 6 months for a response. So it kind of just depends on the case and, the caseworker that's reviewing, the application at the time.
How complex?
During that 5 or 6 months, do you have to pay private pay? Say if he's in the memory care unit, you'd have to pay a private pay between the time that was submitted to the time it was okayed?
Right. Yeah, you and I are gonna talk after this, because I think you have a specific scenario that I want to give you some information about.
I can chime in on that.
Okay.
Get some help. Really. I mean, Mark
Yep.
and his firm has been there, Alyssa's been there, the other ladies have been there. It's almost like a paperwork nightmare. I'm working with a client on veterans benefits, which is half as bad as Mass Health. And they're asking questions that I have no idea why they're asking the question, but they're asking the question. And we've got to answer the question. And I mean, just as an example, these people are experienced at it. To the average person, you got enough to worry about, you know, pass it on. A great question there that you asked, and I'm getting new to some of this business, and that's what I'm finding. A lot of people living in the Milford area, you folks I know from Whitensville, you've got parents in other states, and it's hard managing the situation from here because he's in Maryland or wherever. So generally speaking, I think the scenario is that the parent or the person needing the service moves to you, so now you can manage it along with the personnel
Right.
locally. Because it's almost impossible doing it the other way.
Sure, I mean, and there's several different scenarios. I read into what you asked and determined it to be a certain situation, which I may be off kilter about. But, you know, if you weren't applying for Mass Health and you wanted to move mom and dad closer from another state, we've had people come right from the airport in an ambulance and be admitted immediately to either the assisted living or to the nursing and rehab center because, you know, they're coming into town, they go to the airport, they pick, you know, and they bring them right here. So depending on the situation, depending on the pay, it doesn't, even if it's the Mass Health establishing residency, if you're not applying for Mass Health, you don't need to establish residency. You're just moving from one entity to the other entity, and that's certainly a much smoother situation. But it can be done in all of those scenarios with pretty much with ease.
Please.
So.
Just as a quick plug too, my mom was at Blaire House, and she came a couple of times into the rehab, and she passed away shortly after her last stint here, but that is why we're here,
Aw.
because of my experience with my mother here.
Thank you.
So, she got really good care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're trying to make it seamless for you, seamless for them. I mean, that scenario of coming from the plane right to their made bed is pretty comforting, and then, you know, breakfast the next morning.
Yep.
That you don't have to worry about. I'm looking for another question from a woman with a maroon sweater on, or a pink sweater, or a navy hat.
Purple.
Okay, what about this question? What happens when you run out of money?
Yeah,
This is
what
pri-
does happen?
What does happen? Well, hopefully you've been talking to Tony, or Scott, or Jackie, or for that matter, any financial person, and preferably someone that's dealt with it. Well, for example, in the situation that we're dealing with, the woman who came with no family, and Alyssa created the team, we know approximately how long it's gonna take for her to run out of money. And if she lives long enough, in about a 4-year period, she'll run out of money. We know her social security benefit. We tried to get veterans benefit. We're not successful due to circumstances. We were in the process of selling home. So we're gonna have a pool of money, and it's gonna go right in the bank. There's no investment in this situation because of the time frame involved. We gotta be ultra conservative. It's really, I mentioned wealth management. We're managing, we're not doing any wealth stuff. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna map it out so we know the day that she runs out of money. I'm gonna assume about 6 months before that, we're gonna meet with Alyssa, we're gonna meet with Mark, and we're gonna prepare her Mass Health application. So again, seamlessly, the day that she spends her last dollar, you and I will be paying via Mass Health. And she doesn't know that there's any change, her services won't change, her room won't change, far as I know.
Nope,
Everything-
it will.
Everything will,
Yeah, she'll, at that point, because the Blaire House Assisted Living
Oh.
does not accept Mass Health.
Right.
So, again, as part of that continuum discussion that we had for how we run it here, that 6-month time frame where they're talking about getting that Mass Health application started, I'm gonna then call the nursing and the rehab center, and I'm gonna alert the social worker, okay, I've got this lovely lady, within the next 6 months, we're gonna be looking for a long-term care bed, and then as we get that application approved, she's going to seamlessly transition to the nursing and the rehab center for long-term placement, where she now doesn't have to start looking, she doesn't have to search for another place, she doesn't have to start over again. We actually are able to move her through the system to that next level.
and yes,
Somewhat related to what you were saying earlier, and if we need to talk later, but my dad was a veteran from 58 to 60. understanding is he does not have veteran benefits because
The conflict, the timing,
2 years.
2 weeks early.
Released
Are you aware of that?
yes.
Okay, maybe we'll talk
Yeah,
later.
we're aware of it, and the reality is that's what we find. And if it was 2 years or 2 months or whatever, it is what it is, and they're not gonna budge on that.
Okay. So you know people that have gone down that road?
Yes, and we work very closely with the veterans agent here in Milford, John Pillar. At one of the other sessions, John will be speaking, I think it's at Whitcomb House, specifically on veteran benefits. But they're available, I mean, Mr. Pillar at the town hall is available. That's a resource for you. There are other resources at the senior center. And we find, we work, especially because we're so close, we work very closely with the senior center and some of the services that Sue Clark provides. And again, you can't get anyone that reaches out more than the people at the Milford Senior Center. So again, in answer to my question, we would prepare, we would know the person's situation, and we would prepare in advance so that we're making things seamlessly. She would move because, again, it's a different level of care, and but she, literally, she wouldn't know it.
Tony,
Yes.
I just want to say, you mentioned Sue Clark.
Yes,
She goes above and beyond.
right.
She's a 10.
Sue is the director at the Milford Senior Center, right down the street, and my guess, if you're a Milford citizen or not, you're probably welcome there.
She goes above and beyond.
A ton of activities.
She's the coffee cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need any
we
coffee?
do.
I went, you're not supposed to be doing that. She says, I go above and beyond. And she
Yeah.
does. She's great.
She does.
I find a lot of people, and I don't want to embarrass these ladies, but you're getting a certain kind of person in these kinds of jobs. Be they, as she says, one ear with a licensed social worker. What's the other ear? Then you're a community
That's a social
director.
worker too. I tend to have social worker in both ears, which is a detriment to my business sometimes. But we are patient advocates. We are resident advocates. We make sure that whatever the need is, if we can't fill it, you get the knowledge, you get the information that you need in order to get where you need to go, whether it benefits the Blaire House or not. You need the information, and that's, I think, really the message that we've always adhered to. We're here for you.
So I think we're ready now for our exam that we're going to give you, to see if you've been paying attention. Does everybody know what PITS means? Because I don't.
Protection.
PITS, where you don't want to be.
Protection,
You
investments,
don't want to be.
treasures,
What do they represent?
trust
Mark?
and supports.
Protection, incapacity, transfers, taxes, and support.
So, if you want to know more, give Mark a call.
And, yeah,
Yes,
well, we
please.
also did the raffle basket. We wanted to, certainly the Blaire House is so much appreciative for Tony, for helping us put this together, and we're so happy to host it. I really recommend, really trying to hit the other assisted livings that are taking part. Wickham House is next on March 12th. They're going to talk a lot more about alternative ways of paying for assisted living. So if you're not someone who can pay privately, you're going to really benefit from that presentation at Wickham House. And then Cornerstone is on March 23rd. Again, we work with all of these people. I've known Beth Patras for 15 years. We all work closely together. I really recommend going to each individual one because there's so much more information. That we covered our own topics today, and they're going to have their own topics. Anyone that wants to stay and take a tour of our assisted living in our rooms, just kind of raise your hand. I've got I've got Cindy and I have Christy in the back. They're our admissions team here. They're going to be able to give you a tour. And anyone that wants to speak specific case information, my business card, as well as Christy and Cindy's information, and Maureen and Terry's information are in the Blaire House packets. So you'll be able to access that information. And I was going to ask someone to we did the raffle, so I want to see if maybe we can just pick the winner.
Let's assume.
Oh, I guess we did. Okay, so do you have your tickets? Okay, the winning ticket, the number. All right. 817 080. 080. All right. She was good luck. Good luck.
Every time I take someone, they win.
Very good.
I'm going with you next time.
Yeah. Maybe they'll share with you.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask now if you could complete the evaluation forms. Please be honest, please be candid. We'd like to receive them before you leave. We're going to be here for a while. There's still some refreshments. Take some home for your spouse or whatever. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.